Okay, so beginning with the uterine cycle, this is going to be just a general overview before we actually go through the steps. Here, as you can see, menstruation is just basically the breakdown of the uterine endometrium and vaginal bleeding due to low estrogen and progesterone levels. This is normally days 1 through 5. The proliferative state is the growth of the uterine endometrium under estrogen stimulation, and that's normally days 6 through 14. The secretory phase is the stimulation of the uterine gland's secretion by the hormone progesterone, and that's normally days 15 to 27. The ischemic days are normally the 27th and 28th day. The female hormones are gonadotropin-releasing hormone, which is found in the hypothalamus, luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone, as well as prolactin, which are found in the pituitary. Normally, the gonadotropin-releasing hormone stimulates the pituitary hormones. In the ovary, specifically the developing follicle, estrogen can be found. The corpus luteum secretes progesterone. The functions of the female hormones. FSH, also known as the follicle-stimulating hormone, stimulates the follicular development, maturation, and estrogen secretion. Luteinizing hormone, also known as LH, stimulates the corpus luteum formation and progesterone secretion. And prolactin, known as PRL, can stimulate the breast alveoli for milk production. Don't get this confused with oxytocin, which actually is responsible for the ejection of the milk. The functions of estrogen are as follows: growth and development of the female reproductive organs, the development of the secondary sexual characteristics of the female, and the uterine endometrium of the uterine growth, as well as the breast duct system. Progesterone functions, on the other hand, are the stimulation of the uterine gland's secretion, growth of the breast alveoli, and inhibition of the uterine muscles' contractions during pregnancy to prevent expulsion of the fetus. Here's a general overview of the menstrual cycles. Now just remember that the ovarian cycle is at the same time as the menstrual cycle. They work simultaneously. We're going to go into further detail about these. Now, in round 1, it's normally called the proliferation phase. And that's when FSH stimulates the ovaries to increase the estradiol, which is responsible for building the lining of the uterus. Here, the hypothalamus releases the gonadotropin-releasing hormone that stimulates the anterior pituitary hormone that we talked about earlier, FSH and LH. Here you can see that's in the follicular phase and is directly coordinated to the low levels of estrogen and progesterone. Now normally this is found in days 1 through 5. In the second stage, FSH stimulates the maturation of the primary oocyte in an immature follicle. Now this is shown as in the proliferative phase. And that's again when FSH stimulates the ovaries to increase estradiol and to continue building the lining. Here in step 3, the follicle produces estrogen. Estrogen is known for building the uterine wall, also called the endometrium, and also it inhibits the secretion of FSH. When you have high levels of estrogen, this further stimulates the secretion of the luteinizing hormone by the anterior pituitary. So the luteinizing hormone plus FSH also causes ovulation of the secondary oocyte. This leaves the follicle without an egg, the corpus luteum. This is usually around the 15th day. Here, as you can see, the dotted line through both of the diagrams shows the indication of the occurrence of ovulation. Step 5 is when the corpus luteum secretes estrogen and progesterone. This maintains the endometrium for 15 to 16 days and inhibits the luteinizing hormone. Now keep in mind, when this is in a non-pregnant female. In a pregnant female, the estrogen and progesterone levels are sustained in order to sustain the lining of the endometrium. In step 6, this is if the oocyte is not fertilized nor implanted in the uterine wall. In other words, it still continues in a non-pregnant female. Here the corpus degenerates and stops producing the estrogen and progesterone. In other words, there's an extreme fall in the levels of estrogen and progesterone. Now remember that progesterone and estrogen will now decrease the uninhibition of FSH and LH. In step 7, without these two hormones, estrogen and progesterone, the endometrium then breaks down and menstruation occurs. Menstruation is the sloughing off of the enlarged endometrial wall along with the blood and the mucus. In step 8, the decrease in progesterone and LH. This shows the low luteinizing hormone causes the secretion of the follicular stimulating hormone by the pituitary again. In other words, the cycle is going to repeat.